How's it going, fellas? My name's Andy, and in this video, we're gonna take a look at arguably the most dysfunctional team in NBA history. The Portland Trailblazers during the early to mid-2000s, the period of time when they were known as the Portland Jailblazers. I'm sure many of you have heard people talk about the Jailblazers era and mention them in conversations before because it wasn't too long ago. But most people have no idea how the team actually got that notorious nickname. I'm gonna be covering the Jailblazers era both on and off the court, where they got most of their recognition. So first and foremost, the nickname came about because of the players on the team. A lot of them got into multiple issues with the law, and they were basically in the news every couple of weeks or months since they'd get arrested pretty often doing some illegal activity or just some weird, controversial stuff. The main Blazers involved included guys like Rasheed Wallace, Bonzi Wells, Ruben Patterson, Quintel Woods, Damon Stoudemire, Darius Miles, and a young Zach Randolph. And Steve Kerr. Well, not exactly Steve Kerr. He was with the Blazers for one season in 2001-2, and years later, he recalled that it was a great experience. That was awesome. That might have been the most fun year I've ever had in the NBA just to see the dysfunction. I had never seen it anywhere else. Scottie Pippen and Arvydas Sabonis were both on the team as well, but they were very well respected. Nobody tried messing with them. Anyway, let's look at what these Blazers players actually did that made people call them the Jailblazers. During his time with the Blazers, Rasheed Wallace had the best individual seasons of his career, but he was known for being a hothead. He'd constantly average over 30 technical fouls per season, and in the 2000-2001 season, he recorded 41 technical fouls. A record that still holds up to this day and probably won't ever be broken, considering the NBA nowadays is way more strict in keeping the game clean. Wallace was also charged for marijuana possession a couple of times and suspended for 7 games in 2003 for confronting and threatening referee Tim Donaghy. He never had a good relationship with the refs, and as a result, he became an easy target for them because of his reputation. Even after moving on from Portland, Wallace was still the same guy, for the most part, although he did settle down a bit. As for Damon Stoudemire, his time in Portland included several arrests for marijuana possession as well. The most notable incident happened at the Tucson airport in 2003. Stoudemire tried going through a metal detector while carrying 1.5 ounces of weed wrapped in aluminum foil. He was charged with possession of marijuana and possession of drug paraphernalia. And he also got suspended by the team and fined $250,000. He had to go through a 90-day rehabilitation program and forced to take urine tests throughout the 2003-4 season to prove that he was clean. Ruben Patterson, a great defender, but he's remembered for all of his off-court problems. In 2001, he pled guilty for attempting to rape the nanny who was watching over his kids, and as a result, he was sentenced to 15 days in jail and labeled as a registered sex offender. Also in 2001, Patterson was convicted of misdemeanor assault for attacking a man who scratched his car outside of a nightclub. In 2002, he was arrested for domestic abuse charges against his wife, but those were dropped. Throughout his time in Portland, he'd also have numerous clashes with his coaches, Maurice Cheeks and Nate McMillan. Even after Patterson was traded, he still continued to run into issues with the law, which includes multiple DUI charges. Quintel Woods, a player who's not as well known as the others, but he participated in some interesting things, to say the least. In 2004, he was pulled over by the cops and they asked to see his license and insurance. Woods responded by pulling out a basketball card of himself instead, as he did not have his license on him. So yeah, you can guess that this didn't work out too well, so he pled guilty to driving without a license. A few months later, it was also discovered that he was running an organized dogfighting ring in his house. The police found 6 abused pit bulls near his home, and he ended up getting charged with animal abuse. Unsurprisingly, the Blazers waived him right after this. Darius Miles and Bonzi Wells both had problems with coach Maurice Cheeks. One time, Miles blew up during a film session and started cussing out Cheeks, and he ended up getting suspended by the team for 2 games. Apparently, Miles' verbal assaults were so bad that Cheeks actually considered quitting. Bonzi Wells also had some confrontations with Cheeks and the referees as well. In 2000, Wells got suspended for a game and fined $10,000 for physically assaulting and verbally abusing a ref. In 2001, he trespassed and refused to listen to the cops when they told him to not get involved in a fight near a nightclub. And last but not least, Zach Randolph. Yeah, I don't know where to begin. He had a wide range of incidents, from arrest with marijuana possession, physical assaults, DUI, and the most memorable moment was in 2003, when Randolph sucker punched Ruben Patterson at practice and broke his face. He did that because he hated how Patterson would always bully the younger players on the team. And then later on, Randolph decided to hide at his teammate Dale Davis's house because he was afraid that Patterson was going to go after him and try to shoot him. On top of all this, those guys weren't the only players involved either. In the 2004-05 season, the Blazers signed Hashem Jin, the first and only South Korean player to ever play in the NBA. They also drafted a player called Nedzad Sinanovic, who ended up never playing a single game in the NBA, but he was around for some of the Blazers' practices. Apparently, during a practice session in 2005, Hashem Jin and Sinanovic got into a huge fight. They started throwing punches and swinging their elbows at each other, and just for the record, these two guys were like 7 foot 4 inches tall, so it took an entire team effort from the Blazers training staff to stop the fight. Ha ended up getting punched and he screamed at Sinanovic that he was going to sue him. They were separated and for a moment it seemed like everything calmed down, but it didn't. Ha picked up a wooden pole in the weight room and charged right towards Sinanovic, who blocked the first swing but then took another hit on the ribs. And yeah, that's pretty much what happened according to sports columnist John Canzano. That's damn hilarious and it sums up the Jailblazers era quite nicely. Even the players you've never heard of before would still get into fights at practice. It got so bad that the Blazers management made a promise to the city of Portland that they will drastically change the team and reinvent the culture. They promised them that they'll bring in players who can not only play but also represent the city in a positive light. The craziest part about this era was that they actually weren't even a bad team. They were actually seen as being dark horse contenders in the early 2000s. Here, look at the team's records from 2000 to 2003. That's impressive. They also made the conference finals in 1999 and 2000, which was the year they almost beat the Lakers but lost Game 7 after collapsing in the fourth quarter. It's shocking how good they were. Hearing about all of the off-court issues they've had, it's amazing that a team like this was still able to win 50 games for multiple seasons. It shows how talented the players were. Unfortunately, they didn't do so well after 2003 as they wanted to rebrand and build a better image. So they traded away a few guys, including Rasheed Wallace and Bonzi Wells, who were both very important to the team's success. And that's all, folks. That pretty much sums up the story of the Portland Jailblazers. Those teams were very, very talented from top to bottom, and the fact that they were able to keep winning games showed just how good they were, despite seeing somebody on their team get arrested for what seemed like at least once a month. These Blazers teams were also a huge reason why the NBA increased their penalties for technical fouls, and gave longer suspensions for players who were involved in anything that represented the league in a negative light. And of course, the Malice in the Palace in 2004 played a huge role as well. The Jailblazers also prompted the NBA to clean up their image, a huge reason why David Stern implemented the dress code. Anyway, that's all, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Peace.